Hi, everybody. It's John Slott. I'm the Vice President at Transplant Genomics, and I'm here with John Holman, our former Chief Medical Officer and a long-serving veteran of the transplant field. So, John, do you want to do a quick introduction and tell us about what Transplant Games has meant to you?
Thanks, John. Yes, I've been in transplantation since, I guess officially since 1986, but my kidney transplant and my general surgery residency in 1977, we did transplants and that sort of thing. I practiced at the University of Utah until 2004 and then moved to Astellas pharmaceutical company in Chicago to help them develop new immunosuppressant drugs for transplantation. I got more aware of the transplant games when my brother-in-law had a liver transplant and was, as a college swimmer, was going to compete in the swimming.
Sure.
And so attended my first games in 2018 in Salt Lake City, and then 2 years later attended the international games in Newcastle on Tyne in England. And then we kind of went into limbo with COVID, after that. And the New Jersey games were canceled, and then
Sure.
they had a virtual game. I didn't know too much about that. And then we're here in 2022 in San Diego again because my brother-in-law's swimming, and it's just a cool event. The Transplant Games is a way for transplant recipients to highlight that they have or become more normal people. They're not normal people, but they can do things. They can swim. They can bike. They can play table tennis. They can play cornhole. They can quilt. They can do this variety of things that that interested them in their pre-transplant life, I'm sure, and then they were able to do it again. But I think just as importantly as it highlights the donors, because I'm sorry to say that very early in my transplant career, we didn't give much notice to the donors.
Really?
It was not, they were all deceased donors,
Okay.
and you didn't know anybody and that sort of thing. There was no connection. We didn't do a lot of living donors at the time.
Sure.
But it's unfortunate that they didn't receive the recognition that they deserve. And the Transplant Games does make an effort to recognize them.
Sure.
They have a donor tribute or ceremony. There are actually two this
Right.
year. I don't know exactly what the content difference is of the two of them, but and for the first time I noticed this year in the swimming, because that was what was this morning, they have events for both the recipients and the donors.
Right.
The living donors. So it's really cool to see the whole spectrum get highlighted and noted for the significance that it really is, because none of these recipients would be crowned.
Right. I mean, the mission.
For their donor.
Right. The mission and the spirit of the Transplant Game is fabulous. You had mentioned the recipients initially, now the donors, and any special stories over the 3 or 4 Transplant Games that come to mind?
There's some, and I if I get into them, I start crying. But, but the youngest kid I've seen swim is like 5. The oldest I've seen swim is 80. My brother-in-law is 75.
Wow.
There's a cadre of 65 to 75-year-old men that are still swimming, and they're on every podium together. Just the order changes depending on the event. But there was a lady today that swam that gave a kidney to her father, and she learned to swim just for this event.
Wow.
She had never swum before.
That's amazing.
Somebody told her that she had a 2-minute and 10-second swim. She says, "I don't know what that means." So she was just there for her dad.
It's fabulous.
For her dad.
Yeah, it's a great event. So great introduction. Great to see you again.
Okay, good to see you
I'm glad
too.
that it all worked out for family to be in this venue in San Diego for the 2022 Transplant Games.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Thanks for having me.